and help people. So true prophets always are trying to prepare people for what's coming, and always trying to really be close to the heart of God, so we're not being deceived. And the I kept saying, to people over and over, in all my end times American videos, that we are in the end times, and there wasn't going to be another 4 years of prosperity. Um, I also said clearly that Trump is with the Lord, and the Lord is with Trump, but that doesn't mean the Lord was going to have him be president. And because the Lord, I believe, wants to take apart our government as it is. And now we know it's completely filled with idolatry and praying to the God of the Hindu God, which God cannot bless our government. So so as a true shepherd and as a true prophet who's not perfect, but just trying to give you a true word, I always feel zealous, and I always wonder, like, what's going on when I'm getting something really clear from the Lord, and then other, prophecies are going out that are like at hundreds of thousands of views, and I know that they're false. Why does God allow that? Why does He allow the deception? So there's been a lot of deception in our country, that we are somehow, and a lot of false prophets, false prophecies. Let's say false prophecies, because nobody's perfect. We prophesy in part and we know in part. And the word I was receiving this morning is in Zechariah 13. On that day, a fountain will be opened to the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, to cleanse them from sin and impurity. On that day, I will banish the names of the idols from the land, and they will be remembered no more, declares the Lord Almighty. I will remove both the prophets and the spirit of impurity from the land. And then it goes on to talk about false prophets, and so we don't live in the day where we stone the prophets if they have a false prophecy. We prophesy in part and we know in part. We are, in the new covenant with Jesus. So I have a prophetic gift, and I prophesy in part and I know in part. And I'm usually one of the prophets that don't get the good stuff. I always get the hard stuff, like Jeremiah, and usually it's true. So I hope nobody is clinging on anymore, that the Lord is going to somehow establish this amazing government in America. Just like His kingdom is not of this earth, He's not doing that right now. So I'm zealous for people to be prepared for what's coming. So I've been saying for a long time on my channel that we're going to head into, the darkest time in 2021. And that will be when the Antichrist arises. And we're now seeing that beast system in our government. So also, if you look up Antifa, any way you look it up, it leads to Biden's website. So they're in charge of Antifa, and we know Antifa infiltrated that recent riot at the Capitol. And, they're going to censor me. I don't get that many followers, so I'm not going to be big on their list, but they will censor me at some point. And I do have a Patreon channel, so I'll try to make it super affordable, like $1 or whatever, the most affordable thing I can, because I don't care about the money. It's just getting the message out so people are prepared. So a couple of the thoughts that are coming to me to prepare people then for the truth, and especially those that have been hanging on to these false prophecies. Were they not willing to listen? Were they not willing to accept the Lord's timing as it is? Now I've been coming on really strong with my channel, trying to come against some of those major misconceptions in the End Times philosophy. And so please watch my End Times series. I have a ton of information in there. But a couple of the thoughts that came to mind is now that Twitter has become more powerful than the president, locking the president out of his account. And then they have power over Parler, and, what are we to do? So one thought that came to mind was, the Lord had said to me, I'm bringing a sword. I'm not bringing a peace. I'm bringing a sword. And so he also has said to me that he is going to judge and divide, and we will, I believe, be taken back to the very roots of our nation, and not even the Constitution, but back to the roots of why we were established from the Pilgrims. What I'm saying is, you're going to each have to pray about, what are you called to do during this time? Are you called to fight? Are you called to press underground? There's still a little time to flee, some of these cities that will be really taken over by the Antifa and the Antichrist and the demonic liberal rule. So I haven't formulated everything perfectly in here, but some of the thoughts that came to mind was, so Chuck Pierce had a word a few years ago, and it was lumped in with some other words on Sid Roth, and this struck out to us. It came to mind, January 18th, 2021, leave the swamp, leaving the swamp. So Chuck Pierce had a word, January 18, 2021, we should leave the swamp. A lot of, false prophets still think that Trump is going to still prevail and he's going to still drain the swamp. But I believe, of course, the Lord is going to do this, and he will do it with his judgments and is ready. And right now he is, some reason, allowing that swamp to come back into Washington. And I think he's done with our government. I did a prophetic warfare. It was in 1995, I think. And the Lord had me fast and pray for 3 days for our nation. And he said, pinpoint government and media. And he said, say to them, the handwriting is on the wall, your days are numbered, and you're coming down. So that was a pretty intense intercession I did at that time. I literally pointed at the media and government that were, of course, full of the deep state, not really realizing that in my naivete. But I pinpointed government and media, and I said, your days are numbered and you're coming down. And I really believe that false media and false government is coming down. And in doing so, the Lord has to separate. He has to get all the creeps, in position, so he could judge them. And we are not supposed to be part of that judgment. We're not supposed to be part of that. And now that they have welcomed the Hindu god Brahma into the House of Representatives and into, of course, we know that Biden is not a true believer and Harris is not a true believer. And we know that they are lined up with Antifa, which wants to take our country down. Then we know that the Lord is not welcome anymore in the White House and the Senate and the House. So the Lord can now judge, but we don't want to be in the way. So we don't want to be in that way. So my feeling is, leave the swamp and don't hope in government anymore. Like so many of us have been warning, to prepare and have your food and your resources and not be dependent on anyone. So that came to mind as I was wanting to prepare people, and I'll update you guys every day that I receive something from the Lord. Today I felt very clear that he wanted to say something, and I'm still pressing in because I haven't quite got there yet, but it's something about, we have 10 days to prepare ourselves for leaving the swamp, for possible persecution. He wanted me to remind people that when things happen, they're going to happen really fast. So just like we saw civil liberties being stripped away yesterday in an hour, President Trump literally locked out of his Twitter account with 87 million followers. And ABC, they said we need to cleanse his movement. So now that we have Trump out of the way, we need to cleanse his movement. So that word cleanse is pretty disgusting. They later retracted it, But that's something that you would have heard Hitler say to cleanse the the Jews out of Germany. So, and I've said it so many times on my channel, the day of darkness and the terrible day of the Lord is coming. And I've had so many prophetic words and dreams about one day everything's fine, and the next day you are being persecuted as a Jew or Christian. So, I really advocate for, coming out of those places that were going to be the most highly persecuted places. And some of us have prepared, and is a dream. This is a dream from a sister online, but she had a dream that when the inauguration happened, it was really dark, like really, really dark, and that Biden and Obama were the same person. So some people have thought Obama is the Antichrist. I mean, he was born in the Middle East, so I guess that could be possible. I haven't got clarity on that, but I know they'll be part of the Antichrist system. Biden and Obama will be part of the Antichrist system. So her dream was that they went through a threshold on inauguration and they became the Antichrist system. So now we believe that this Antichrist will be in place by March, the end of March 2021. So Israel is having their elections during that time, and Netanyahu, who is anointed of the Lord, just like Trump, is being pushed out of Israel. He's being pushed out the same way by their deep state, the deep state that's wanting to take over Israel, and of course linking up to be the Antichrist. That Netanyahu literally gets pushed out around their elections in March of 2017 or 2021, which is 42 months, 3.5 years from when we believe that the last 7 years started. So we're in the last 7 years, I believe, and that started around the Feast of Sukkot in the fall of 2017. So that leads us to the 3.5 years when the abomination of desolation will be set up. And of course, I've talked over and over about there doesn't have to be a temple. There will be a set apart place where he sets his disgusting idol. We could possibly see this happening just, right before our eyes. So really just happening right before our eyes. And how does the timing of America line up with the abomination taking place March of 2021? So is the inauguration delayed? Does it happen and it's all just starting to be put in place? So I'm just putting this video out there just to really, just get your wheels turning, because true prophets want to prepare people just like before the zombie apocalypse, basically. I mean, we get a bunch of dead people, spiritually dead, and they're going to be taking over in the government. And you have to remember that this is an ordained time by the Lord. This is not people that are evil and have taken over. This is the Lord. If the Lord allows the beast system to be in our government for a period of time before he takes it down and gives us our remnant nation through possibly, war and military invasion, all kinds of crazy stuff that's going to happen. But for whatever time he does that, the Lord has ordained that time, and his kingdom is not of this earth, and he has a purpose for these things. He has a purpose, and as the beast kingdom comes together, and finally, really rises up with the false prophet around Passover 2021, we are not to fight that beast system. That will be a time of the greatest tribulation that Christians have ever suffered. So there will be beheadings, and there will be imprisonments, and there will be persecution. And there will also be those believers and those of Israel, of true Israel, that will be hidden in the wilderness. So this is what I really believe. And I also believe, it's time to come out of Babylon and get into the wilderness as soon as you can. I think it's almost too late. But this is just some words I was thinking. They're not like, this is saith the Lord. It's just I really want to prepare my followers and my listeners to be really prepared because, like Corey Ten Boom said, people, if they're not prepared, she was fearful that U.S. would not be prepared for the times of persecution coming. Because if you are prepared mentally and emotionally, I think it might give us more courage to get through that. And I've thought about these scenarios myself. Am I willing and ready to be persecuted for the Lord, who was persecuted for me and crucified for me? And I think about this every day. I grapple with this in my heart and my spirit, and I try to think of different scenarios. And of course, I've been tortured for years by the enemy, being on the front line of the gospel. I've been tortured in many ways, physically and mentally and emotionally, and also had people completely crucify me, and I've suffered a lot of those things. But am I willing to suffer more? Like could I go through that? And I think it's really good that we do that. We want to be like Peter and be like, I can't even die right side up on a cross. I need to die upside down on a cross to be that I'm not even worthy to die in the same way that my Lord died. So until he comes, brothers and sisters, until he comes and he brings us up with him, we are going to watch and go through a lot of horrific things. But I do believe that those of the people watching, those servants watching, I really believe that the Lord has a special protection for those people. But we don't know for sure. So we want to just be, with the Lord and go with him wherever he calls us to go, and have the courage to do that until we get called up with him in the clouds. So God bless you, and be in prayer. I know you are. And I'll talk to you soon. All right.
Living stones built together for him. We are his body, we are his bride. New Jerusalem, a holy nation, a spiritual house, a royal priesthood, precious to God. You are precious to God. The temple of my Messiah, the New Jerusalem.